All right. Welcome everyone back to the Small World podcast. Great to have you guys here with me again. I have a very special guest with me here today. His name is Neel. He is part of the UC Launch cohort here at Berkeley, so that is how I know him. He is building a company called Interlinked, which we're really excited to hear about in the future. In a couple minutes here, I just want to start off by saying that Neel is also a Berkeley student. He's incredibly smart to have built this project, and he's not a business major like me. So that means he actually has some technical skills. So I'm going to let Neel take it away, tell us a little bit about himself and Interlinked, and then we're going to hop in it. Neel, thank you for hopping on the pod.
Yeah, no, really appreciate the time today, and thanks for flattering me. I'm not, that smart, but it's okay. Yeah, so yeah, I'm a Berkeley student. Got like one more semester before I graduate. I'm doing data science and economics right now. Interlinked is an AI-driven disaster response platform for emergency responders. Really, how we came up with it was we were really interested in real-time data. The utilization of real-time data is something that I've always been interested in. And we really saw that a lot of fire departments, and especially fire departments in California, do not have the resources to be able to actually respond to wildfires properly. And what I mean by resources is real time data to be able to give their insights and their decisions actually a data driven response. And so we really, aim to fix that, really aim to give them data that they can actually back with their responses to wildfires so that, they don't have to work primarily only on instinctual decisions. So that's about Interlinked. Thanks again for letting me hop on today.
Of course. So just to paint a picture of what firefighters are dealing with today, right? You're giving them real time data, but what do they have to work with right now?
Yeah, so right now, all across California, the main problem that they're dealing with is that they have a 15 to 30-minute response delay from minute zero, where an ignition point is detected, where a wildfire is detected,
Mm.
to minute 30 when they're actually resource allocating, sending out engines to the wildfire to actually respond to the wildfire. So they're primarily working with pretty much nothing. Sometimes fire departments have told me that they literally draw out their responses on physical maps. Some fire departments down in LA where there's more metropolitan development, they do work with some mapping softwares, but they just don't give enough time, give enough information to be able to actually give them real time data. A
Mm.
lot of it is static data, doesn't actually update in real time. So when they go into a fire, that map that they had 30 minutes ago is completely useless, and it has no utilization on the field. So they just have to go back to what they were already using, which is, their heads and the tribal knowledge and just like, being in the space for over, 30 years or something like that. So being able to give them that real time data not only helps them in the field, but it also gives them more rhetoric to actually work on before they, resource allocate, before they respond to a wildfire, helps them be more efficient with what types of resources they need, because they also sometimes don't even have the intellect or the intelligence to be able to know what types of resources are good for the response.
So by resources, you mean something like what kind of gear, what kind of fire
Yeah,
trucks, like where to
yeah.
send that?
So it's usually they have like boots on the ground, obviously, troops, they call them troops.
Mm.
And then there's, engine number one, engine number two, and then there's types of engines. There's engine type one, engine type two, engine type three. There's a lot of types, but mainly what we work with in California, and engine type two and engine type three, which are the most ones that actually go and respond to
Mm.
the wildfire from the command center. And the command center is where the incident commander, who's kind of like the top guy, is sitting at, this command center, literally a command center, and is making decisions based on, just the information. But usually the information is like a game of telephone. You're calling, Cal Fire, you're calling other fire departments, kind of trying to get a lay of the land. And then that kind of just leads to obviously what happens in a game of telephone. The message just gets, misinterpreted, and their response just gets delayed. So um
For our listeners who never played telephone, go play. Grab like 8 people and just like say a phrase and have each person repeat it. It gets completely messed up. It's very fascinating, but I think it really underlines the problem you're trying to solve. And just to like really define the problem here, essentially, millions of dollars of damages and risking people's lives, right? Like firefighters are going in without proper information. If that's my dad, my mom, my family member, my friend who's going in there, and I'm just kind of praying that he doesn't get in trouble due to a lack of information, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually used to live in California. Now I live in Chicago. I moved there during COVID, but I used to live in Southern California next to the Pacific Palisades, and I knew a ton of friends there. And during the Palisades this year, some of them actually lost their homes, and we started working on this back in October of last year. So it's already been a year since we've been working on this. But then when the Palisades happened, my team and I really decided to go all in into this, really put in everything that we can in terms of time and resources to be able to actually make an impact, a real world impact with this technology. So it's also a little bit personal for me.
I love that it's personal, and between me and you, VCs love it too. I do want to just talk about, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I'll put it out there. If the people who were trying to stop the fires at the Palisades had your software, can you estimate how much faster they could have responded? How much more property, houses, families they could have saved?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And that's something that we've actually done a simulation against. We have done a case study just to primarily show stakeholders like fire departments, insurance companies, things like that. Because insurance companies also have a really high stake in these, and that's why they've been staving away from California. But that's a whole different topic, right? But so we do have a case study, and we've seen that with the aggregation of the real-time data with our AI models, it's almost instantaneous. Obviously, it's like a few minutes that they're able to actually resource allocate, get people boots on the ground. So it cuts down the response time by more than 90%. And it also helps them actually evacuate people. Another thing that we've added into our model is evacuation zones. And specifically where a fire starts, our map has evacuation zones layered over the entirety of California. So wherever a fire starts, we'd be able to see exactly where the fire is going to spread and which zones it's going to affect at which timings. And usually those time intervals are 1 to 3 hours, 3 to 6 hours, 6 to 12, and then past 12, it's called an extended attack in the firefighting community. And that usually happens, especially with the Palisades. That's what happened, and it lasted for weeks, right? That extended attack. So being able to know exactly where the fire is going to spread is extremely important to know which evacuation zones are going to be affected at which times, and also be able to know what's the most optimized route to be able to take to get to evacuating those people and responding to the wildfire. Because, people do one of two things when they see a wildfire. Either, one, they're like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to stay in and just hope nothing like happens.
It's
Number
probably not advisable.
Exactly, not advisable, right? Or number two, they obviously take their cars, they go to the road, but then, there's a traffic jam, right? And then what happens at that traffic jam is that the firefighters can't even get to the wildfire to respond. So it's
Mhm.
just a shit show for lack of a, phrase, right? So yeah, that's really what we've been, trying to implement, and we've been working with fire departments all across California. So it's been great.
Nice. So, were you able to pull any like specific numbers, like amount of like millions of dollars of property saved, like amount of people saved from the case study, or like are you still
Yeah.
working on that?
Yeah, so at least from the case study, so what happened during the Palisades was around $26 billion was lost in the Palisades.
Fucking hell.
Um, so obviously, even with response time, things are still going to burn, right? That's just the reality of it. What the goal of the algorithm is to do is to help them cut their losses,
Mhm.
let them know exactly where they should be prioritizing their resources to be able to mitigate the most amount of damage possible. So after we did the case study for those insurance companies, because they were the main stakeholders for how much was lost, with the interlinked algorithm, we brought it down with the simulation. We brought it down to around $20 billion lost only. So it was about a $6 billion reduction. I mean, still $20 billion were lost, but that was the immensity of the Palisades, and we can't ignore that, right? So, really just figuring out how we can even make it even better by, implementing, niche data sets, whether it's taking into account invasive species fuels modeling, which basically means, the vegetation modeling, not to get too complicated, but what vegetation modeling basically shows you for the entirety of California what types of plants, what types of shrubs there are in specific geographical locations. And if you can know where the invasive species are, like eucalyptus trees, you can know and determine better how the fire will spread. Because the one thing you need to know about eucalyptus trees or any other invasive species is that they burn different.
Mm.
Eucalyptus trees burn different because they have a high amount of oil, sap inside of their wood. So they burn even more intensely than the brush or the chaparral that we have in California. So just all of those niche little things, like getting to really know the actual lay of the land is how we can, make this improvement.
That makes sense, and this goes for every AI company, right? The more data you
Exactly.
feed it, the more you train it, the better it goes, and $6 billion saved is huge. I
Yeah.
mean, that's amazing, and to everyone who might be thinking, "Oh, well, that's like what, 20% of." At the end of the day, your software doesn't fight fires. It helps people fight fires. And I do want to also point out that I don't know how you did the simulation, but when you're putting the software in the hands of people with 30 years of experience, right? Now you're giving them even much better, more information so they're able to use it better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And sorry to cut you off if you're going to say anything, but the most important thing about this algorithm is that the fire departments are using it themselves and the model is learning from them. The one thing that a lot of mapping software companies don't do is they don't actually listen to what the fire departments are actually saying and what types of responses they're doing. So when the LLM is spitting out responses to them, it's learning from their language because the vernacular that fire departments use is extremely different from, normal just English when people are speaking, right? It's almost like if I was French and I was speaking to a Korean person French, right? The language disconnect is so great because the vernacular they use is extremely acronymed. It's extremely like short. You need to be able to know certain key terms, and the model is really taking that into account. So the human feedback loop is actually the most important part. Without the firefighters, the model is nothing. So that's really one thing that we had to navigate with people saying like, "Oh, you're trying to replace fire departments, trying to replace firefighters." No, not at all. We're really just trying to give them this tool so that they can have something to help them with. Because other than that, it's just instinctual, right? So, want to
yeah.
help as much as we can.
And we're almost not even getting rid of the instinct. We're just supplying more information, which
Yeah,
can never hurt.
yeah, exactly. Another thing that is very important to the model is that the model only gives suggestions. It doesn't say you need to do this. This
Yeah.
is a necessity. It's just giving them the response. It's giving them what types of data that they actually need on that field to be able to make that response. And, if they think that it's a good response based on their instinctual knowledge, then boom, go ahead. You can do it. Otherwise, it takes 30 minutes. For the Palisades, it took 90 minutes for them to get any amount of response on the ground. So, and that's just the Palisades. On
Yeah.
average, it's 30 minutes, but sometimes it takes days. So, yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah, I mean, I guess like, you know, hi kitty. Sorry, my cat's saying hi. You want to say hi to the podcast, buddy? This is Bandit. Sorry. I want to talk about the future of Interlinked because I feel like we've been
Yeah.
talking about the past and the present, but we would be remiss if we didn't touch on one detail. First, you were talking about your team and your co-founders. I believe you have two co-founders also out of Berkeley, right? Could you just
Yes.
tell me a little bit about how you met them and how you guys decided to form the company?
Yeah, no, for sure. So both of them, I knew them back in actually in middle school. So I knew them back from like sixth grade. We were always just close, like kind of like Three Musketeers. And then when I moved to Chicago, right during high school, I kind of lost touch with them. Obviously we kept in contact, but like it was way better. It's just like that, right? But then when they got into Berkeley, I'm a year younger, by the way. So when they got into Berkeley, um, I was like, okay, I gotta, I gotta get into Berkeley, right? So, when I was applying, they were helping me with the applications and everything like that. Lo and behold, I got into Berkeley, off the wait list too, which was really crazy for me, at least in my opinion. Um, and then really where it started was One of my co-founders, he's one of the lead researchers at the Berkeley Artificial Intelligence Research Lab under the Computer Vision Lab, Trevor Darrell, and he really was very interested in real-time data. And obviously me being a data science major, I'm also very interested in data in general. Being able to use real-time data was something that we thought had a lot of real-world applications and could actually make a difference. And so when we were just thinking about different problems we could be solving, it was on a whiteboard in my co-founder's apartment. We were just writing out different problems, and it really came down to, okay, there's a lot of gaps in the emergency response space. Let's just start talking to fire departments, right? Started talking to fire departments. They really just kept saying this: delay, 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 cutting losses, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to evacuate people, things like that. Loss of life, loss of infrastructure was really bad, right? And we just kind of said, okay, we can aggregate all of these real time data sources and link it back. And it was just like all linking together and everything like that. And we are just like interlinked. And then that's really like where it came from. I swear to God, like someone said interlinked, and then we were like, yeah,
I
that's it.
like it. I like it.
Yeah,
This is the first time on the pod we've actually gotten like the history of how the name came together. That's a cool story, dude.
yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about going forward. Who pays you guys? The insurance companies, the fire departments, the government? Who wants to give you a shit ton of money?
Yeah, so it's 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 a combination of insurance companies and emergency response companies. VCs kind of get mad when you don't say one, when you don't say concrete, just one customer category, but it really is like it could be the government, it could be insurance companies, it could be emergency response companies. Basically, when I say emergency response companies, those are the mapping software companies that want our model because it's far superior than theirs and they can integrate it with theirs, right? And
Mm,
make theirs a lot better competitively against all the other enterprises, right? So one way that we've been really thinking about it is definitely the enterprise route, mainly because if we implement our software with these emergency response companies, we'll be able to work with two customers in one. Because what happens is that the emergency response companies are already plugged in with fire departments all across California. These fire departments are already using mapping softwares, right? So if we can work with the emergency response companies, not only do we work with the emergency response companies, but we work with the fire departments as well because they'll be using the mapping software, the same mapping software that we're integrated with. So in that sense, we'd be killing two birds with one stone. So that's really the approach that we've been thinking about. Initially, we were just thinking about selling only B2G, right? Which was, procurement, everything like that. Working with the enterprises actually helps us skip that procurement process. Working with the enterprises will skip it mainly because they're already plugged in B2G and they already have all of that compliance. They already have FedRAMP. They already have all of the ground foundational work laid out. We can just sneak in and be kind of like a layer on top of their software. And another reason why we wanted to do that is because a lot of fire departments have told us, hey, cool stuff, cool model. We don't like learning new things. We don't like, you guys like, we don't want another tech group coming in and giving us something new again. And then we have to relearn it and everything like that. I mean, fire departments have told us this. If you can integrate it with what we're already using, we would be able to learn it a lot faster because it's seamless integration and it's something that they're already familiar with. So not only to cater to the fire departments, but we can work with two customers in one. So that's really the way that we're thinking about going in market,
that makes sense. Everything always works slow in government, right? So,
especially now.
yes, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, the Trump's got us shut down and everything.
Yeah,
Well, it
exactly.
depends who you ask, I guess. The
Yeah.
Republicans say the Democrats or
Yeah,
whatever. And that's why this is not a political podcast. We're not going to.
exactly.
I respect all political affiliations except for most of them. Okay, so how do you guys build a moat? How do you stop an idiot like me saying, I want to do that and just doing it?
Yeah, I think it's really just like the connections that we've built with the fire departments and getting to know exactly what their vernacular is. I think that part is definitely like one of the biggest moats that we have, but it's also the in-house data that we have. So we have a ton of PhD researchers on our team from Berkeley, from MIT and Stanford as well. We've all been collaborating together and we've been making some really crazy data sets, I'd say. So one of our data sets that we have, it's a vegetation map. Usually what a vegetation map has is resolution. And the lower the resolution, the higher quality the picture is for that data set. So think about it like this, right? Think about it like this. A satellite that is taking pictures of the whole of California, right? It has a certain resolution, right? Why is the lower resolution better?
Oh, because it's more zoomed
It
in.
means if let's just say we have a 5 meter resolution, we can see on the ground, we can zoom in to 5 meters by 5 meters.
Gotcha.
So what we built is a 1 by 1 meter resolution, collaborating with, PhD researchers from one of the most top AI researching labs all across the country is really, been our moat, I think. I think it's just a lot of talent and a lot of people that are showing us how to actually work with the fire departments. Cause, we've gone a question like, what's preventing Google from doing this, right? Well, Google doesn't actually care about the fire departments. They don't actually care to speak to the fire departments. So I think our ability to work within that group and really get to learn what they actually do operationally is how we can make the most impact. And I think that's how the moat is really being made. It's not only the data sets, everyone will see, oh, okay, these guys made a 1 meter resolution data set. Let's make it even crazier, right? And then they'll try, right? Obviously, try very hard. But I think it's really just getting to know the operational ins and outs, that tribal knowledge that the fire departments have is the real moat because that's not really widespread.
And I think as you continue to grow and acquire more clients, that moat leads to a much stronger moat in switching costs, right? Once firefighters are using you and they know that you understand their language, and like you said earlier, they hate learning new stuff. All of a sudden, God forbid anyone ever offers them any other software.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just, like a retention kind of thing.
Yep.
They'll keep, returning back to us and obviously want to utilize us a lot more because, we're the ones actually like going and meeting them in the fire department, learning how they actually respond to wildfires. Um, my co-founders and I, we were actually on a ride along a couple weeks ago and we were like sprinting up and down hills with them, getting to learn how exactly they respond to wildfires and what types of things they do on the field. And I gained so much more. Obviously, I had a lot of respect, but I gained so much more respect learning, how they actually do it, learning what types of things they do, and even running up and down a hill with like that gear on you is just crazy, right? It's like cardio. And I go to the gym, but like that was just like that was some other type of workout.
Were you able to keep up?
Yeah, so I kept up for a bit and then, these guys are crazy. They're just they're literally like Olympic athletes, like basically Olympic athletes. After a while, I just had to like sit down at the bottom of the hill, like all three of us, and we were just like dead. So it was just like, wow, these guys are crazy.
Of the founders who lasted the longest?
I think it was Rayhan. Rayhan lasted the longest.
Okay. And then were you
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the guy that's my co-founder, that's the technical, like super technical. He's like in the lab all day, so I didn't expect much, right? So
That plays into stereotypes, I guess, huh?
oh yeah, he has to be in the lab, right? Otherwise, the model is kind
Fact.
of yeah,
He's training this muscle up here, the brain.
exactly, exactly.
Okay, I we only got a couple minutes. We're running up on half an hour. I want to ask you about real quick. How does Interlinked look 10 years from now?
So we want to be able to branch out into other natural disasters. The one thing that we really want to do with this model is be able to have it multi-adaptable across all different types of environments, all different types of natural disasters. And obviously, we're starting with wildfires right now, but wildfires are the hardest ones to do. Everyone, when we started this, they were like, why wildfires? Why not do floods, which are way easier, by the way, to actually be able to tell when a flood is going to happen and how to actually respond to a flood. But we're always, we stand on it. We think that if we can do it for wildfires, we can do it for anything. So once we perfect this for wildfires, which seems like, probably another 1 to 2 years, we should be able to perfect it. Once we do that, we'll branch out into floods, typhoons, hurricanes, things like that, even earthquakes maybe. That one's really hard, but I still think wildfires are the hardest because it's almost like an organism. You can't like a wildfire, the smallest thing can make it go a different direction. The smallest thing can make it go backwards, frontwards, everything like that. So
Gust of wind, who knows?
exactly, or some dumbass that has like a lighter, right?
Yeah.
How are you supposed to know he's going up in the hills and lighting plants on fire, right? So that's
Some
also
guy with a
another thing.
joint starts a fire and shit, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's the hardest thing to do. So if we can perfect it for this, we can do it for anything. So really being like that global kind of emergency response, like gold standard kind of is what we want to shoot for.
Well, actually, you saying global brings up an interesting point. There's other fire departments in other countries. Have you thought
Yeah.
about international?
Yeah, so we've already been speaking to people in Australia, people in Spain, people in South America, and Nepal actually. So I met someone from Nepal and they thought, our product was really cool. And I was like, why Nepal? Why would we go to Nepal? Apparently they have 800 wildfires every week.
What the fuck?
In comparison, California has 8,000 wildfires a year. In Nepal, they have 800 wildfires every week.
So like
Apparently,
what?
'cause
What? That's like 40,000 for 40
yeah,
ish thousand a year.
yeah.
Jesus.
So they have extremely high wildfire proneness in Nepal. Um, so obviously that's another place that we're thinking about looking into as well. Uh, and we have already made some connections with some data providers there too. So that's also been great. But yeah, there definitely wildfires is not limited to California. There's other states, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. Texas is also one, but Texas does mostly floods. So yeah, I mean, we've been really thinking about it and we've been branching out. So yeah.
Hell yeah. No, I love that. I had no idea Nepal needs to get their shit together in terms of wildfires.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so last question here, just to kind of leave us off. What's your plans for the next couple of months? I know you're in UC launch, so hopefully your plans are to win it. I think you got a chance, man. I think you got a chance. But just tell me, like, where are you going in the next couple of months? What are you going to perfect?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think really right now it's just even more technical development, like just getting down the most basic things, being able to aggregate all of that real-time data, which we already are doing, but just figuring out even more sources that we can aggregate into the model, whether it's power line data, whether it's infrastructure data, whether it's, insurance data, God forbid. So
No, 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 no. Does that mean you're gonna like prioritize places?
I mean, we haven't really looked into it. It would be mainly so I have looked into it. It would be mainly to help them price their policies. Yeah. So pricing their policies depending on how like, high risk a place is. Like, so if like a place is like super high risk, then, you would price your policies kind of high. So, it's just like figuring out like where exactly we can help in every facet and just really it's just a lot of technical development. Really just every single day we're in the lab perfecting this technology, working with our PhD researchers, and obviously, hopefully we win launch. We can do a lot of good things with, just the resources and things that we can get from UC launch. So hopefully we can do that. But either way, we're still going to be grinding every day. So
For
yeah.
sure. How long till you have a model that you would say you're happy with to like put out into the public?
So we want to say like 6 months, but depending on, so right now we're at like a 87% accuracy. We
Mhm.
wanna get it to at least a 97% before, we really trust it to go out into the field and start making those decisions. So we'd say it's 6 months, but you can't rush things like this, right?
Yeah,
Lives are on the line and that shit is serious. So we're not gonna like, rush into it at all. We're really just working hard every day, making sure that the accuracy is climbing every day, which it is. And so, it really just depends on how fast we can get that accuracy up to like 97%.
just to take it slow. Please don't fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly. And if we do fuck it up, then it's really bad, like really bad. So we don't want to in the first place.
Exactly. All right, Neil. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much for hopping on the pod. I had a really fun talk, and
Yeah.
I had a really fun time learning about just how much good Interlink can do for the world. So
Thanks,
thank you.
man. Yeah, really appreciate the time today.
Of course.